Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, with the grace, mercy and permission and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we continue our da'wah from Khalifa Education Foundation and Positive Islamic Psychology Center. We are giving you training through YouTube. We have more than many channel, more than 9 channel of YouTube channel, and now we are developing Islamic Integrative Healing, Ru'ya IAH channel. We have Islamic Psychology, more than 600 videos, and so on. So what is important is that in transforming the Ummah, we have to face the challenges of the 21st century, and the approach will be based on love, mercy, compassion and grace of Allah, forgiveness of Allah, and it is the whole idea of how we want to motivate our young people in terms of Islamic motivation, coaching, mentoring, and how to develop Islam as a deen of love. And this approach is based on traditional metaphysics of Islam, which I mentioned to you, our great scholars, our great teachers, starting from our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his tabi'in, tabi'in, the imams, and all those scholars that follows them through. Al-Imam Ghazali, Imam Maliki, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Hanbali, and so on. So many of the great imams of the founders of the 4 schools of Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, as well as later scholars like Maulana Rumi and so on. So we are using, and the latest, for example, the closest now that we have is Badiuzzzaman Said Nursi, and this framework is based on love, mercy, compassion, and based on the metaphysics of the deen of Islam within the framework of Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So I've given to you a lot of ideas, all right, and how it affects your life, your motivation, your health, your habits, and so on, and how the influence from the 5 realms of existence, Al-Hadr, Al-Hilya, Al-Khams, from the Islamic metaphysics, and how this is interrelated in terms of the world of Nasut, Malakut, Jabarut, and so on, and how we as a human being, we only is not only lives within the plane of material world, the physical world or the terrestrial world, but we live within the framework of the intermediate celestial and linked to the infinite, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have those, both the internalization of the macrocosm and the microcosm that includes all our body, our jasad, our akal, our qalb, our heart, and our roh. So all these are truth that is very important for us to promote, especially in the atheistic world. And how can we approach them unless we can talk their language? So we have to talk the language of cosmology, the talk language of quantum entanglement, the talk about the language of singularity, the talk of the language of the Big Bang, the talk of the language of DNA, RNA, information technology, biological systems, ecology. All right, the world is now facing climate change, so now we are destroying this earth. All that has an answer within Islam, and that answer is very, very scientific. So how does a person who cannot read and write, our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, come out with these ideas? It has to come from revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why our deen is based on revelation, on the oneness of Allah, the creator of the heavens and the earth, and He decides what is to happen both in the past, present and future. And we have explained this in the terms of understanding the Tawheed. So when we explain the nature of quantum entanglement, we have mentioned earlier on the singularity. At the point of singularity, how we exist, Allah tells us He created us out of nothingness. That nothingness, this universe is actually nothingness. That nothingness is only known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we say, okay, it is singularity. At the point of singularity, smaller than a dot, smaller than a pinhead, this point of singularity then explode or expand and become the Big Bang. So at that point of singularity, that means it has existed in energy form. Most of the cosmologists say it is a very intense, compact, dense energy, billions, trillions of degrees Celsius. It's unimaginable, almost infinite. So you can imagine if what Allah has created has infinity, infinite in terms of its temperature, infinite in terms of its entanglement, then at that point everything that goes out of the Big Bang is an entanglement. So this singularity creates the entanglement of the Big Bang, and this Big Bang then form, as we know, the galaxies, the star systems, then the biological life, everything. So from the minerals, elements to minerals to biological life, bacteria, RNA, DNA formation, everything is built, is linked, and that at the microscopic level, now we know quantum entanglement is a reality. So all of us are connected. That's why from the Islamic perspective, we are connected. Ourself, our body is connected in the terrestrial world, is connected to the intermediate world and the celestial world and the world of the infinite, the world of the Zat of Allah. We are all linked together, and how it is linked is because of the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All that exists, everything that exists comes from His command. Innama amruhu iza arada an shay'an an yakula lahu kun fayakun. When Allah wills this universe to exist, kun fayakun, it becomes. And when it becomes, we are not separated. Allah has willed that we are all connected. We are all entanglement. We are entangled together. So we are entangled in our biological system, in our physical system, in our realms of existence. We are all entangled. So we are all related. For example, the human species comes from one father and mother, Adam and Eve. And now science has proven that whole humanity comes from one father and one mother. Alright? Previously they say, oh, there is many fathers and mothers and many. Now they're coming to, when they study the DNA structure, it's only one. So we are entangled. So every human being, whether you are black, white, brown, whether you are Malay, Chinese, European, Eurasian, whatever, we are all entangled. We are entangled to the plants. We are entangled to the mineral state. So the realms of existence that Allah has ordained upon us within the Islamic metaphysics, they have given this whole idea of the state of the realms of existence at the, for example, the mineral state, the vegetative state, the animal state, then the human state. All those are states of existence that Allah wills upon, and they are all interrelated and connected. Now we know. We talk about ecology. We talk about climate change. What we do when we pump the CO2 by burning fossil fuel, what we do, we disturb the balance. Allah has created the balance of the CO2 and the other natural gases, nitrogen, oxygen, and all that, hydrogen. When we upset that balance, the temperature rises. When the temperature rises, then you start destroying this earth. So this balance is very important. So we are connected to the temperature, to the clouds, to the rain, to the system, everything. We are entangled. So what is important is that when we know that, then we know we are part of a system ordained by Allah as a singularity, as existence within the physical realm and existence within that entanglement at the quantum state. And we, the human being, is the mirror of all the divine attributes, which I'll explain later. So I'm going to give you a short video on understanding. This is an animated version of what is quantum entanglement from the scientific perspective. Very simple approach. I'm not talking about being a physicist, but it will encourage young scientific-minded Muslims to understand the nature of the integrative aspect of our existence. I remember in Islam we have this Islamic integrative concepts of existence. We are existing in the physical state, linked to this universe, linked to the physical realm, whether it is the microbes, the bacteria, the elements, and so on. And we are linked to the realms of the spiritual, to our roh, qalb, and akal. And this whole integrated self, our nafs, is a state of a combined or composite nature that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained. And this is very scientific, so we should not be afraid to explain to those atheists, because they are trying to fool us by saying that everything is just material world. No, the material world is just one small component of the reality of existence. And quantum physics now shows that the material world is nothing. It's just almost illusionary. So what is important is that the nature of understanding beyond the physical world, understanding the nature of consciousness, the nature of the mind, the nature of the heart, the nature of the spirit, will bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we can explain to them that we are all together in one unity, we are all together within the realm of Tawheed that Allah has ordained upon, then we are all entangled, and we are all living together as one unit of existence by the will and the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah.
Consider throwing a ball straight into the air. Can you predict the motion of the ball after it leaves your hand? Sure, that's easy. The ball will move upward until it gets to some highest point. Then it'll come back down and land in your hand again. Of course, that's what happens, and you know this because you have witnessed events like this countless times. You've been observing the physics of everyday phenomena your entire life. But suppose we explore a question about the physics of atoms. Like, what does the motion of an electron around the nucleus of a hydrogen atom look like? Could we answer that question based on our experience with everyday physics? Definitely not. Why? Because the physics that governs the behavior of systems at such small scales is much different than the physics of the macroscopic objects you see around you all the time. The everyday world you know and love behaves according to the laws of classical mechanics. But systems on the scale of atoms behave according to the laws of quantum mechanics. This quantum world turns out to be a very strange place. An illustration of quantum strangeness is given by a famous thought experiment, Schrödinger's cat. A physicist, who doesn't particularly like cats, puts a cat in a box, along with a bomb that has a 50% chance of blowing up after the lid is closed. Until we reopen the lid, there is no way of knowing whether the bomb exploded or not, and thus no way of knowing if the cat is alive or dead. In quantum physics, we could say that before our observation, the cat was in a superposition state. It was neither alive nor dead, but rather in a mixture of both possibilities, with a 50% chance for each. The same sort of thing happens to physical systems at quantum scales, like an electron orbiting in a hydrogen atom. The electron isn't really orbiting at all. It's sort of everywhere in space all at once, with more of a probability of being at some places than others. And it's only after we measure its position that we can pinpoint where it is at that moment. A lot like how we didn't know whether the cat was alive or dead until we opened the box. This brings us to the strange and beautiful phenomenon of quantum entanglement. Suppose that instead of one cat in a box, we have two cats in two different boxes. If we repeat the Schrödinger's cat experiment with this pair of cats, the outcome of the experiment can be one of four possibilities. Either both cats will be alive, or both will be dead, or one will be alive and the other dead, or vice versa. The system of both cats is again in a superposition state, with each outcome having a 25% chance rather than 50%. But here's the cool thing. Quantum mechanics tells us it's possible to erase the both cats alive and both cats dead outcomes from the superposition state. In other words, there can be a two-cat system such that the outcome will always be one cat alive and the other cat dead. The technical term for this is that the states of the cats are entangled. But there's something truly mind-blowing about quantum entanglement. If you prepare the system of two cats in boxes in this entangled state, then move the boxes to opposite ends of the universe, the outcome of the experiment will still always be the same. One cat will always come out alive, and the other cat will always end up dead, even though which particular cat lives or dies is completely undetermined before we measure the outcome. How is this possible? How is it that the states of cats on opposite sides of the universe can be entangled in this way? They're too far away to communicate with each other in time. So how do the two bombs always conspire such that one blows up and the other doesn't? You might be thinking, this is just some theoretical mumbo-jumbo. This sort of thing can't happen in the real world. But it turns out that quantum entanglement has been confirmed in real-world lab experiments. Two subatomic particles entangled in a superposition state where if one spins one way, then the other must spin the other way, will do just that, even when there's no way for information to pass from one particle to the other, indicating which way to spin to obey the rules of entanglement. It's not surprising, then, that entanglement is at the core of quantum information science, a growing field studying how to use the laws of the strange quantum world in our macroscopic world, like in quantum cryptography, so spies can send secure messages to each other, or quantum computing for cracking secret codes. Everyday physics may start to look a bit more like the strange quantum world. Quantum teleportation may even progress so far that one day your cat will escape to a safer galaxy where there are no physicists and no boxes.